in a pinch. And when I mean a pinch, I mean as in like my wallet got pinched, my hot water heater got pinched, my sprinkler system by the end of the night got pinched, and yeah, not the best way to start a new year when it's cold as hell and all hell breaks loose. Since no New Orleans house is equipped to like deal with stuff like this.
I got a feeling you're not the only one that's had that issue in New Orleans for the past, 3 or 4 days.
I seriously doubt it, considering when you look at like the local newscasts and they're all interviewing plumbers. Just goes to show you they've been highly busy. But yeah, got it fixed, so I'm back in the saddle. So Wednesday, Wobble Wobble Wednesday. Of course, we got plenty to talk about if you want to get involved in the show. 504-260-1280 is the number. I know Jeff and Josh talked plenty about Saints Bucks, plenty about Saints Panthers. We will continue the Saints Panthers conversation and the NFL playoffs conversation throughout today's show. Got a couple guests we've had on before, but highly relevant, so we're going to have them on again. Around 10:45, we will have Lorenzo Reyes from USA Today, covers the NFL. And Jeff, if you remember, we had Lorenzo on around the mid-season mark. It was leading up to the Buffalo game. And he was the only person on USA Today's sports staff to predict the Saints to win the Super Bowl. So at least his team that he predicted to win at least got in the playoffs.
Right.
So he's starting on the right foot.
He was bullish on the Saints early on, if I recall, and got to give him credit because he was kind of going against the grain counterintuitively. And I do, and along those lines, I do remember having Peter King on in training camp, and he said he thought the Saints were going to be a lot better than everybody thought. Now he didn't project where they were going to be, but I have to give him a little credit too. Some people early on thought this team could be better than they were, and it turned out to be right.
You thought they would be better than I thought.
Yeah, but we're
obviously.
here. But we're here. We get a little more insight. It's always impressive to see a national person have that same feeling, especially someone like Peter King who bounces around to every team, and he only has so many opportunities to see the Saints because he's got so many other responsibilities. Same with Lorenzo. So.
Absolutely. So Lorenzo Reyes, he's actually going to be landing in Charlotte in a few minutes, so we'll catch up with him in about, let's say, 40 minutes, 35 minutes, something like that. So we will catch up with him. Then we will go to someone who's been on our show a couple times, who covers the Panthers on a daily basis, Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer, one of the best beat guys in the business. We'll catch up with him, top of the 11 o'clock hour. And, of course, it's not a Wobble Wobble Wednesday without our own Will Guillory. The Pelicans get back on the court tonight after losing 2 in a row. They get back on the court tonight in Utah, and they will take on the Jazz. And, of course, you can listen to that game on our sister station, 99.5 FM WRNO. And, Jeff, you look at the way that this playoff picture has panned out, and I'm not surprised at where the Saints are lined up as far as prime game on Sunday. I figured they'd either be the prime game on Saturday or the prime game on Sunday, because they suddenly have the star power that other teams don't. And it's not like the NFL is ready to showcase Buffalo. They're not ready to showcase Jacksonville, Tennessee. They're not going to showcase any of those teams. So you'd figure the Saints would be showcased by the NFL. And I'm sure you're going to hear it this week. I know I'm going to hear it this week. Heck, we were hearing it once the playoff seedings got set when we were in Tampa on New Year's Eve. It's hard to beat a team 3 times. We're going to hear this nonsense.
It's actually a myth. Josh Katzenstein pointed out yesterday on the show. He looked it up when divisional teams, at least, play each other, which is really the only way it could happen.
Only way it could happen. Yes.
The team that swept the regular season has gone 13-7 against the same opponent in the playoffs. So that's a 66% win percentage. So sometimes the other team does win, but more often than not, the team that dominated during the regular season wins again, and there's a reason for that. I mean, you don't lose twice to a team because you're better than them. So but I do think one thing I would say, and you and I were talking about before we went on air, I do think Carolina is a little bit of a different beast than they were, especially when they played them in week 3. Now, the Saints handled them pretty good here in the Dome, but Cam Newton's running the ball more. They don't have Kelvin Benjamin. They've kind of gone to a more wide open offense, and they're going to have to score some points because the Saints have proven when they play Carolina, whatever it is, they match up well. They know how to attack that defense. They average about 30 points a game when they play them. So if Carolina can't score like they did against Atlanta this week, it could be a blowout. And I thought it was interesting, Larry. The line started at 6, went up to 6.5. Today I looked at it at 7. So everybody's on the Saints.
And you look at, and you say the Saints, as far as scoring points against Carolina, they've done, if you're looking at playoff teams that the Saints have played this year, they've had the most success offensively against Carolina. Didn't have that great of success against Minnesota, New England, Los Angeles, Atlanta twice. Buffalo, I can't believe they're a playoff team. They had some success against Buffalo, but they were certainly not in a good spot at that point. But I'm not even counting Buffalo.
How did Buffalo get in the playoffs after watching the Saints?
I'm not even talking. I can't even fathom that Buffalo is in. I know.
Can't. I mean, the Saints beat them by like 1 million points. They took mercy on them. They were beating them so bad. And Buffalo looked miserable on offense. I mean, they couldn't do anything. I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those games you can't overreact. But gosh, they looked awful in that game.
And then they started Nate Peterman the next week.
Right.
And, let's go back. And, now we're in the playoffs.
But there was a great video, if you saw it, of the Bills reacting when the Bengals beat the Ravens. That was a great video. And that's one of the big stories. Did you see where the Bills fans are contributing to Andy Dalton's foundation? They've contributed over $100,000 because he's the one that threw the touchdown pass to help beat them. It's awesome.
I think what happened was they were busy jumping off RVs into flaming tables, decided to take a break and donate some money. So they do A, the most ridiculous things, and B, super cool charitable things.
Well,
so hey, Bills Mafia, man, come on, get with it.
I would say this: the Bills do have great fans, long frustrated fans. 17-year drought finally over, but in defense, people saying they have the best fans in the league. They had 345 fans, I think they said, to meet the Bills when they came back from Miami at the airport. Now I realize it was probably really cold out there, and so it's a little different. But Saints fans used to come out in thousands to greet the Saints at the airport. So let's not get carried away. Saints fans have started the airport welcoming committee, and trust me, if there'd been a 17-year drought for the Saints and they finally made the playoffs, there'd be more than 345 fans at the airport.
I wonder how cold it is, A. But even if it was cold I was about to say, even if it was cold here, I would assume that Saints fandom would be flying high. But even if there's no drought, I mean, so what? They're still out in droves. They're not complacent. They haven't been in the playoffs in 3 years. I know fans were at the airport when they came back from Tampa, even though they lost. There were still fans there. George Johnson tweeted about it, how, he'd never seen anything like it because he's
Right.
never been a part of anything like that.
Do you think there'd be any Falcons fans ever at the airport in Atlanta ever for the Falcons? I don't think so.
No, well, that airport, I wouldn't even know where they would.
That's true.
Where they would be able to
Excellent
have access.
Excellent point. And if I can avoid the Atlanta airport, I would avoid it too. So I'm sure even Atlanta natives don't want to go there.
No, the MARTA bus would probably just drive up and block the road, and they wouldn't be able to get in, and you wouldn't be able to see anything. But yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend, I would say, certainly here in New Orleans, and I think fans have to be happy with the setup to where the Saints are playing at 3:40. They're playing a team that they know that the Saints can beat. But I'm sure there are still Saints fans who are out there who are going to be leery just because you get in the playoffs, you never know what happens. Even though Cam Newton played awful last week and literally fumbled the ball almost into the end zone to beat Tampa the week before, and they needed to get out of there with every kind of maneuver they could possibly pull off. I think Saints fans are fired up. Prime game on a Sunday, ready to rock.
I'll be surprised. I will say this. I was surprised at the lines across the league. There's, I think, 2 9-point games. I think, was it Jacksonville's favored by 9 over Buffalo, and then maybe the Chiefs might be favored by 9. There was the lines are big for the playoffs. I think the Saints game is. You got it. I knew you'd have it.
You know I have it.
Odds,
Come on.
What do you call yourself?
Odds McGee.
Odds McGee.
Odds McGee over here. According to Bovada, of course, my fallback on everything in life, even though I'd never put money on anything in life outside of like fantasy football. Let's see. Kansas City is an 8-point favorite. The Rams are 6-point favorites. Jacksonville's an 8-point favorite. The Saints are 6-point favorites. Now, I don't know if that thing's moved. I got this email 15 minutes ago. So I don't know if it's depends on the book.
When they did it, even,
right?
When they sent that out.
How this was, but yeah, and then I've got some other odds that we'll give throughout the show because you know me, I love playing.
Aren't you surprised at some of the how large?
I'm surprised. Just here's the thing: you'd think Jacksonville and Buffalo would be playing for the toilet bowl, not for a chance to get to the NFC divisional round. So. Jacksonville, Buffalo, I don't know. The Chiefs, I don't know if I'm as surprised as the Chiefs and the Titans because Mariota, man, he's fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, when they go on the road, Tennessee's pretty average. And that's one of the most hostile places to play in the league, Arrowhead Stadium. I kind of like the Chiefs to win that one pretty handily. But I think Buffalo, they're kind of one of those, like, all of a sudden they got second life. They got in, they kind of snuck in. They're kind of playing with house money right now. I think they're going to be very dangerous in that game because no one expects them to win. They didn't even know they were going to get there. So I like their chances of competing in that game.
Well, as far as where the money is already, 68% of the public are on Kansas City, 62% of the public are on the Rams, 52% are on Buffalo. So that just shows you where you're going with the line, and then 70% are on the Saints. So we know that even though it's a good matchup with some star power, the betting public is on the Saints. They think they're going to pull this thing off.
They just match up well.
Yeah, we've seen it for years, and yeah, so it should be some. But I'll bring some more odds coming up here later on the show. Let's take a quick phone caller before we take our first break in the show. Ronnie in Harahan. Ronnie, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got, Ronnie? Yeah, you got it. I saw something floating around about that on the internet. I don't know how true it is. Maybe it's viable. Look, he's obviously coached up there before. Dom Capers is out in Green Bay. If you're going to make a step, the next step would be, outside of being a head coach, would be to be a defensive coordinator. I don't know how true it is, I'll be honest, but it wouldn't be totally bad on the Packers to consider this. Like when the Saints actually hired Rob Ryan, they considered Todd Grantham, who was at Georgia at the time, defensive coordinator. So it wouldn't completely stun me. Jeff, what do you got?
Bob McGinn reported in 2015 that Aranda, when he was with University of Wisconsin, interviewed with Mike McCarthy and Ted Thompson for a job. Now it doesn't say at the time Dom Capers was the defense coordinator, so it wasn't for the coordinator position. But there is familiarity there. If he sat down with Mike McCarthy before, I'm sure he made a good impression. So that's not out of the. I think there's probably some fire where that smoke's coming from.
Potentially, yeah. So it's something we're going to watch. And of course, LSU's. Who knows what's happening with Matt Canada at this point? I think everyone's just waiting for the shoe to drop, and the shoe has not dropped yet.
Well, if it doesn't drop, it's going to be one of the craziest stories of all time because everyone's reported he's gone.
Right.
I can't see him staying. Is it possible that Ed Ogeron would have to hire both coordinator positions? That would be something else because both those guys are highly thought of in some circles, especially Aranda. Aranda's thought of as a future head coach in college, but I could see him being a perfect fit for the NFL.
As a defensive coordinator,
yes,
absolutely.
Absolutely perfect. Of course, he and his family have lived in Wisconsin, but I know they're very happy in Baton Rouge. They've really, I think, fit into the community there. They've got a young family. So he has to consider all those things, but certainly the pay scale for the Green Bay Packers is going to be higher than what he's making with LSU.
No doubt about it. Why don't we take a break right here on the show? And if you want to get involved, 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. I'll bring some prop bets, some interesting tidbits of note. We'll bring some of that. And then, of course, We'll be guest heavy later on in the show around 10:45. Lorenzo Reyes from USA Today covers the NFL. We'll talk about the NFL playoff scene and, of course, Saints Panthers. Top 11 o'clock hour, Joe Person from the Charlotte Observer. We will chat with him about, obviously, Saints Panthers. And around 11:30, not a Wobble Wobble Wednesday without our own Will Guillory. Pelicans hit the court in Utah tonight. 8 o'clock tip, so we'll talk about the Pelicans with our man Will Guillory. All of that coming up later, and more fun coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Yo.
Hi. Okay. Okay. Yeah, keyword just seems fine. I'm stuck in my ways. Yeah. Yeah. We'll do it in the commercial break leading up to him. You want to do it that way or no? I'll do it while Will is on. Got it. Okay. Got it. I'll say it. Perfect. Right, got it. Okay.
They got a game tonight?
Pelicans? Yeah.
I would think they haven't played in a while.
Not it.
I knew they went on the road. That's what I'm looking at.
I thought it was on the road at
I
Utah.
thought they played it on the road. Yeah. Yeah, it's at Utah. And Donovan Mitchell, Louisville Cardinal.
Never heard of him.
I have to now become an NBA fan because our college team is so awful.
LSU hosts Kentucky tonight. SEC opener.
Yeah, tonight. That's right. Yeah, Ron and Lopes are covering that.
Yeah. Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. If you want to get involved with the show, 504-260-1280 is the number, and we will be asking you to call that number later on in the show.
We've got Pelicans tickets to give away. We're not giving away Utah Jazz tickets since it's in Utah, and we're not paying for that ticket, and we're not paying for your airfare or your hotels. But we will give away tickets to Pelicans hosting the Detroit Pistons January 8th. We will ask for the keyword in hour number 2. And if you give us a call, again, 504-260-1280. When we ask, first caller wins the tickets. Jeff, this is always your duty. What is the key word today?
Playoff.
Playoff?
Playoff.
Do you have to call and say it like that?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to say it with the Jim Mora inflection.
Playoffs?
That's pretty good, actually.
Hey man, I can mimic some people.
We're in the postseason, man. We got to get the town fired up.
All right, so playoff is the key word, and if you call back later when we ask for it, You do it just like that, you will win a pair of Pelicans Pistons tickets, lower bowl, great seats. We do it right here at Sports 1280 AM. So, Jeff, I mentioned to you, start of SEC season for LSU starts up tonight, and LSU starting it up big. They're taking on Kentucky. I know some of the SEC schools got started last night, and I'm curious to see, just right off the bat, we've seen LSU play well in their early goings. Look, beat Memphis, beat Michigan. The teams that they lost to me, are viable teams, even though they lost to Stephen F. Austin. They were a tournament team and one of the better teams in one of the kind of lower conferences floating around. I'm curious to see how they respond right away with really the blue blood. I know you love to hear that, say that. The blue blood of college basketball, Kentucky. Maybe Duke has it.
I think Duke and North Carolina.
Oh, here we go.
Let's go. Kansas.
Not Kentucky.
Certainly Kentucky's one of them, yeah. I think they've, not in addition to their national titles, they've been put on probation more than any school in the history of college sports. So they do have that to be proud of.
Hey, you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Yeah, we found that out in Louisville this year, so I can't really say anything about that. We also have no regard. We can't really say anything after the beating in Lexington we took this weekend. But I would say this is not a vintage Kentucky team by any means, and I think LSU is going to be over their skis a little bit talent-wise, but I think they'll keep it close just because the way they play. Will Wade has got this team competing, and that's establishing a culture and an attitude that they haven't had there in a while, frankly, and they're not going to have nearly the talent that Kentucky's running out there, but if they get a good crowd, the PMAC, and these guys get after it, I think they'll be in the second half.
Well, you look at some of the opponents that LSU is going to be playing. They're going to open up with three big boys.
They're going to start with Kentucky, then they're going to go at Texas A&M, and then at Arkansas. All three are ranked in the top 25. So it's no picnic right away for Will Wade's LSU team. But I'm going to keep saying this, and because if they kind of fall off a little bit, I don't think people should be discouraged. I just think the fact that we're even talking about them in the midst of Saints playoff race, all the chaos that's going on through LSU football, I think that's a win already for Will Wade and just can get people amped up for the team that we're highly anticipating to be very good next year with those big-time recruits coming in.
Yeah, I think the arrow is pointed up for LSU basketball, and I think it's pointed up for Tulane basketball as well, but at least they're competitive now, and it gives you something once football season ends, and we're always focused on football in Louisiana because it's a football state, but it gives you something to bridge the gap between baseball season and football season, and LSU, there's no excuse for LSU not to be in the NCAA tournament every year. There's just no excuse for that. They were regularly there when Dale Brown was in charge and John Brady, and it could be a great home court advantage, the PMAC, when that place is really rocking and the team's good. And the SEC, frankly, is wide open, especially the SEC West. There's no dominant team in the West.
Well, it also seems like SEC basketball this year is a little stronger than what we've been accustomed to seeing. When you're struggling, when you go to the SEC tournament and you see the top 4 seeds in the SEC tournament, and they're not automatically in the NCAA tournament. We've seen that a couple of times in recent history where you've got, say, the 4th seed is fighting for their lives just to get in because at-large bids aren't guaranteed because it's basically been Kentucky, I guess you say Florida, and everyone else.
Vanderbilt's been there sometimes, yeah.
Right,
but it's all in the East.
Right.
And Georgia's got a good team this year. Tennessee's got a good team. Again, the East is very competitive. South Carolina went to the Final Four a few years ago. But the West, I guess Texas A&M's probably been the most consistent program in the West. Alabama's had some decent seasons. Certainly back in the day, they were always good. But no one in the West has really become a national presence. And LSU should be that program. They should be able to dominate the state in recruiting. A lot of these really top prospects, the Greg Monroes, the DJ Augustins, those guys should be going to LSU. There's no reason for them to lose them out of state.
I feel like the biggest top LSU say in-state recruit that I can remember, maybe I'm wrong, was Randy Livingston, and that's 20 years ago when he was the number one kid in the country at Newman.
Yes.
And then they couldn't get Chris Duhon, and they couldn't get those guys.
Yeah, Chris Duhon was a huge recruit.
Right.
Yeah, no, now they're getting them now. Javonta Smart is from Scotlandville, is committed to LSU next year, and Will Wade, Kentucky, recruited him hard. He's definitely one of the top players in the country, and they could continue to pluck off those guys and then go, say, regionally. I mean, I don't think they're going to get a kid from California, most likely. Although back in the day, this is probably before your time, but certainly not before my time,
I'd love to hear that.
John Williams was the number one recruit in the country out of Los Angeles. And the reason I remember this is because my school, University of Louisville, recruited him hard. UCLA, of course, recruited him hard. And he went to LSU, picked LSU over UCLA and Louisville, and I think even Kentucky. Everybody recruited the kid. And that was back in the Dale Brown era when they were getting kids from all over. Probably not going to happen as much now.
Maybe. Who knows? We'll see what happens with Will Wade. Well, here's the thing. I think we're talking a few years from now, but if Will Wade is successful at LSU, someone's probably going to try to pluck him and go somewhere to one of these big-time schools at some point. Look, it happened to Shaka Smart, and he kind of comes from that same pipeline. Now Shaka Smart's in Texas after leaving VCU?
And Texas is recruiting at a high level now. Shaka Smart got Mohamed Bamba, who is a 7-footer. I mean, this next draft, Larry, the 2018 NBA draft is going to be one to remember because you've got DeAndre Ayton, who's a 7'1" prospect at Arizona, who a lot of people think could be another like Shaquille O'Neal. You've got Marvin Bagley, 6'11", kind of small forward, power forward type at Duke. And then you have Mohamed Bamba, a 7-footer at Texas, all big men, coming into a league that really has gone away from big men. But it's going to change the complexion of the league, especially with what Joel Embiid's doing and Karl Anthony Towns and the two bigs here in New Orleans. It's going to become a more big man-centric league.
Jeff, how can you forget that LSU recruited a kid from Australia? And he was the best player since LeBron James, and they couldn't even make the tournament. How can you forget that?
Well, I'm not forgetting it. That was
stunk.
That was obviously
bomb out
in the cards deal with David Patrick.
Yeah, in the cards.
He was the godfather of Ben Simmons.
Well,
they do not get Ben Simmons without David Patrick on the staff. And I think that was worked out a long time ago.
That still didn't work out anyway. Didn't matter.
No, but I mean, I tell you, I love Johnny Jones. He's a really good man, and I think he knows basketball, but he was not a quality head coach. I mean, there's no reason you have a talent like that. And with Antonio Blakeney, who's playing for
same thing.
I think he's playing with the Milwaukee Bucks right now.
Yeah.
You have two NBA players you can't even get in the tournament. One generational talent in Ben Simmons.
Yeah, exactly. Not good. So let's take a break right here on the show. When we get back, we will head into more NFL talk. And then don't forget, in about 10 minutes, we will talk with Lorenzo Reyes from USA Today. Covers the NFL. He will be in Charlotte, of course, covering the Panthers right now. And Panthers are playing a certain team called the New Orleans Saints on Sunday at 3:40 in the Dome. Playoff football. Gotta love it. Then, top 11 o'clock hour, we will have Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer. We'll be talking playoffs. Remember, that's the key word to win Pelicans tickets. We'll talk with him top 11 o'clock hour, and we'll talk with our own Will Guillory 11:30 about Pelicans, Utah. Can they get off the schneid after losing 2 straight and one really bad loss? That it's almost like you forgot about it. It was so long ago, but my goodness, you can't lose to the Dallas Mavericks. And the Knicks stink on the road, and they lost to them too. So I'm back off the bandwagon.
You're back. You're
back
on and off
easily.
Yeah, you're smart to be off right now.
Exactly. So all right, all that coming up later, and more coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Back having issues with the freaking
I had
iPhone.
to switch the phone thing.
But I had it on the way he told me to have it on. Now it's not working that way. It's the bane of my existence, Larry.
It is, yeah.
That is the bane of your existence.
I mean, it drives me berserk.
temperatures to fall into the 20s on both sides of the lake. Possible hard freeze conditions north of the lake. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shelby Latino. Have a great day.
The future is bleak.
Can you all hear
for
me
a
on
child
YouTube
living in
now?
poverty.
I'm trying
No
to,
school, no dreams, no
fix
hope,
the
but
audio.
you can change all
Bueller.
that when you become a
following
compassionate
their
child sponsor. Just
cocky
a little more than
clad's
$1 a
advice.
day
He's
brings
here.
hope. Find out how at compassion.com.
He's in the office if we need him.
radio.
Your car has lots of lights. You've got
All right.
headlights.
So we're
interior
back.
Glad
lights,
is a
the
genius.
light that comes on when you open your glove box. But there's
And we're
one
back.
light that's the best of the bunch. Your check engine light. And at AutoZone, we have the
say-
tools to help you
I say
troubleshoot
that
the real problem for free. Whether it's something
hesitantly, because
serious
I know it's
or
going to
something
go to
simple
Cocky
like
Clad's
Blue's
head
gas
that he's a
cap,
genius.
You'll get a MyZone health
He's
report
probably
to
right
help
now
save you
doing some
money
kind
and
of
hassle
victory
down the
dance
road.
around his
So if your check engine light comes
Around
on,
his
it's
cubicle.
all over
cubicle
AutoZone.
somewhere
Let's get
in
you
his
what you
Nichols
need.
State sweatshirt or his, I forget his soccer team he likes. I hope it's
Apple
not Man
is
U.
now reportedly
Everton, I've
swapping
heard it so
any
many
iPhone
times.
battery
I
at
think.
its discounted price,
Everton.
regardless of the battery's capacity. It's the
don't
latest
know. I'm sure
concession
he'll
to
chime
Apple
in here.
consumers
Everton?
since the
I don't
company
know.
acknowledged it was
Yeah, he's gonna chime
intentionally
in on
slowing
YouTube.
some iPhones as a way to save battery power. Well, all
You know what-
eyes
you know
are
what
on
worked,
this
by
year's
the way,
Consumer
YouTube
Electronics
audience?
Show, which
This
gets underway
incredible
next week in
technological
Las Vegas.
wizard
Perhaps the most
unplugged
excitement is over the next
the
generation
button
of
and plugged it
wireless
back in.
technology.
That
the
was
5G
usually how it is.
next generation
Unplug it,
wireless,
plug it back
and all
in.
the tools and toys that will be able to take advantage of it. The rideshare company Lyft says it will have autonomous cars giving rides to folks attending the CES.
Well, at least we
will
got to work
provide
on it.
the
Glad
rides
everybody
while
was
Lyft
patient.
will handle the dispatch. And North Korean hackers are being accused by South Korea of stealing some $25,000 in cryptocurrency. The allegations say the theft of Bitcoin is helping to fund the Kim Jong-un regime. Now, just last
I don't
month,
even
the
know what
U.S. accused
Bitcoin
North Korea
is.
of having orchestrated the
What is
WannaCry
Bitcoin?
cyber attack.
Bitcoin's a
last spring.
cryptocurrency, in other
Tech
words.
update.
There's no,
Doug Parrish in
there's
VC.
no
All right,
money
coming back.
involved. It's all like, well, I mean, there's money involved, but it's a national or international way to exchange.
Learn what
So you
our
don't
insiders know about your
It'll be
home
like,
teams.
you know,
Sports
Euro.
1280 New Orleans.
Trying to make banking international.
Jeff's over here trying to explain to me what Bitcoin is. I think it's something you just use at Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know. Or like if you go to get on somewhere like a carousel. I don't know.
You talking about like when you go to what was Mike Triplett's pizza place? he
Happy
loved?
Joe's.
Yeah, you go to Happy Joe's
In
and
the
you're playing
Midwest.
skee ball and you get the
That's
you get
Bitcoins,
to-
right? That's a Bitcoin?
tokens to put into the skee ball machine up in Triplett always loved taking us to Happy Joe's, and whenever we were up in the Midwest, whenever we go to Wisconsin, he wants to go to Happy Joe's
Because he likes the taco pizza.
because Triplett is originally from Iowa, an Iowa resident. He's still Midwestern at heart.
And he also, why we're sharing all these things about Mike Triplett, I don't know. And everywhere he goes on the road, he goes and plays Frisbee golf. It's like his mission to go find
disc golf.
whatever.
That's what we call it.
Disc, it's not officially Frisbee because Frisbee is like Jell-O. You can't use those because they're like real
Yeah, it's a
products.
trademark. It's a
Right.
product. It's trademarked, like
Right.
Xerox.
Well, you know what else is trademarked?
What?
My hair. And you know what's happening to it tomorrow?
Are you feeling okay? Are you this is like we're entering the last 24 hours of your hair.
We
on your
are
head.
entering it. And if you have not paid attention to life of this show and the nonsensical spewings of me, Saints at 0-2. Jeff claimed them to go to playoffs.
Listen to this.
Not the playoffs. 10 and he
Yeah,
claimed they
playoff.
would. He claimed they would win 10 games. I said, without hesitation, I would shave my head if they went 10-6. I'm going against the actual record. I'll live by the spirit of the proclamation. Tomorrow, from 4 to 6 at Tracy's in the Irish Channel, Magazine and 3rd Street. We will be there. I will be having my head shaved, and I'm going to be crying. I've already put pictures of Britney Spears running around with a shaved head, beating a car on Twitter. That's going to be me, just angry, upset that all of my hair will be gone.
It's going to
All of
be
it.
a glorious day tomorrow at Tracy's. A great occasion, and I was there on Friday, and there were people, not only people working at Tracy's, but patrons coming up to me asking about it. Angus Lynn, former colleague of ours, says he's going to come. So this is going to be a great day. I cannot wait, and I'm very proud of you for honoring your bet. A lot of people would have waffled on it, and you've never waffled at all.
Never. I've been wanting to do this for 2 weeks just to get it over with.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Because now it's playoffs, and we're going to have colleagues coming in from out of town who cover the league, and then they're going to see me with my hair and be like, what the hell just happened to you?
It's a good thing you're married, because that would probably be a setback.
We have had the discussion about my hair many times, and my wife has been the most team player person I could ever imagine. Because people are all worried, what does your wife say? I'm just like, she's stuck with married to an idiot, but she has been.
Well, she says that now, but what happens if she gets one gander at your bald noggin and says, man?
She runs to the hat store and buys me a hat.
Wig.
I don't know, or a wig. Maybe one of those Greg Williams visor hair.
I love those. Yeah,
we
you
should
have one
that.
of those.
I should show up at the press conference at Sunday's game with the Greg Williams visor hair, and Sean Payton would be so pleased.
He would not be
so happy.
Have you also thought about, I'm sure you have, I'm sure you've thought a lot about it, that it's probably the coldest stretch of the year right now, and you're going to have no hair on your head?
Well, what's colder, outside or the dome press box? So I would still need a ski cap anyway.
That's true. I mean, it was really cold at the Sugar Bowl the other night, brutally cold.
I figured.
But it's going to be a glorious day, and finally it has arrived after much anticipation. We're finally going to see Larry follow through on this bet, and I'm really, really eager to see you at the first press conference with Sean Payton, because I guarantee he's going to get a jab in. Guaranteed.
There's no doubt about it. Here's the thing. If we would have done this a couple of weeks ago, I bet you he would have come and shaved part of my head.
Yeah, he would have.
But not in playoff time.
No, it's too much on the line.
I mean, I've got more on the line. It's my damn livelihood, my hair. Sean Payton's not getting fired anytime soon. He's good.
That's true. Maybe he'd get shaved with you at the same time. He'd look kind of funny shaved too, I think.
He would look funny. I'm going to look funny.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I can't quite visualize it.
No, my wife was pulling back my hair and covering it up just to see, and it's not the full. She's not getting the full effect. No.
Well, at least Joni is on board. I appreciate that from her too, because it would be easy for her to throw a wrench in this whole
balk at it.
idea. Yeah, I didn't sign up. I didn't sign up for this.
The next week, are we gonna have an Irish wake for your hair?
What's that? Does it involve we got to take shots of Jameson or something every day?
Exactly. Yeah. We'll celebrate the life that your hair once lived.
Pour one out for my homie,
for
my
all my
hair.
Dead follicles. All my dead follicles.
Well, it's good that we're on YouTube, though, streamed every day, so everybody can see it. That'll be another fun aspect.
I will tell you this. If you're not able to make it tomorrow from 4 to 6 at Tracy's Magazine in 3rd Street in the Irish Channel, we will be airing it on our Saints YouTube page live. So I'm sure there will be a link to it, or it might be a window on NOLA.com. So if you're not able to make it, we will be streaming it live as it happens, the pain and misery of me and the joy and jubilation of everyone else.
Has Jeff, by the way, set up an area? Where are we going to be? I'm sure he's thought it through.
I'm sure he has not thought it through, but I'm sure once we get there tomorrow, it will be set up. I mean, it's a chair, and you need an outlet. And all you do is shave it.
We need a stage so people can see it.
Who is actually shaving your head?
Well, Dave, I've put you on cleanup duty as far as when everybody takes random jabs out of it. At the end, you're going to have to at least just make sure it's all off and
I'm definitely
normal.
getting a swath. I'm definitely getting one turn.
Yes, I'm sure people are coming out of the woodwork. They're going to try to get a cut. I know it. But Dave, you're on duty of not cleaning up the hair off the ground. You need to clean up my head. Is that fair? Are you able to do this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's not good.
Sure, that's a vote of confidence, right?
I'll look like Fire Marshal Bill at the end of this.
I know they sell those kind of little razors, the curved razors that you can use.
I don't know.
To shave your head. Have you seen those?
No, I don't know what any of this is.
A little ring that goes around. Dave, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right? They look curved, C-shaped kind of, razors that you can use.
Yeah, I just use a regular razor, man.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, you don't need none of those
See,
fancy
Dave
things.
does this. That's why I'm putting him he's got to make me at least not look like a total goob, but that might not be possible.
The biggest key is just not to push or put any pressure on it while you're shaving. Just let it glide. Let it glide.
See? Glide. Remember that, Jeff, when you take the first cut at it. Don't chop my head off.
Don't do it.
I don't think it's going to be that hard.
I don't think it will be either. I think it's just it'll be
it's going to be.
I mean, I've seen Pedro do it in Napoleon Dynamite, and so why can't you do it?
They do it in my scene to always fall back on was stripes when they were going to the barber after they enlisted.
Well, someone who is very intrigued with this is our buddy Lorenzo Reyes from USA Today. He has been on Twitter all about this for weeks since it's happening, and he's bent that he's playing he has to be in front of Joe Person on today's show. He doesn't want to be, the opening act for Joe Person, but sorry, Lorenzo. That's what's going to happen to you. Lorenzo Reyes of USA Today coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Corey Johnson.
Kamara can run between the tackles and is physical. And I
We
would
should
say
somewhere
Ingram
in the
hits
show
the poles
maybe
and hits
throw
the
out
defensive
the,
linemen and linebackers at
Hall of
least
Fame.
as hard, if not
Yes.
harder
Yeah,
than
keep forgetting
Kamara.
that.
But
Yeah,
Kamara
forgot
is
about it.
like
No, we'll do that.
Teflon, man. They can't tackle this kid. It's a
I mean, we
nice
could either do it
dynamic
after
duo,
Joe or
those two
after
at
Will.
running
Why
back.
don't we do it after?
Corey
Do it
Johnson
after
on
Joe.
The neutral ground.
I know. I walked in here
Sports
thinking like we
1280.
got to do
and I
it.
forgot about it too.
Yeah.
Stay focused on your goal for 2018 while using that new toy.
Alexa, play iHeartRadio Spin Cycle.
iHeartRadio has stations and playlists perfect for your workout. 24-hour cardio mix, hip-hop workout radio, club jam country, plus playlists like rock workout.
All right, we got Lorenzo and 1 minute before we come back, so that'll leave you a good 10-minute segment.
Cool.
Music,
Thank you.
all your favorite stations, all free.
The 4 for $4 from Wendy's has a lot of fans because it's a deal that gives you a sandwich plus 4 nuggets, a small fry, and drink, all for just $4. But now the 4 for $4 has more variety than ever with 8 sandwich choices.
I'm loyal to the double stack.
I'm Junior Bacon Cheeseburger through and through.
I pledge myself to the crispy chicken sandwich.
I'm loyal to my hunger. Whether you're loyal to one sandwich or all 8, the Wendy's 4 for $4 has a sandwich for you. So try them all and pick your favorite. Now that's deliciously different.
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
Every child is born with talents, hopes, and dreams, but poverty will steal those dreams. You can help a child find hope when you become their sponsor with Compassion International. Give a child a chance to dream again. Find out how at compassion.com/radio.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
First time we've been talking about playoffs here since the 2013 season. And here to discuss that, other things, Lorenzo Reyes from USA Today covers the NFL. And Lorenzo, I know you pitched real hard to get to New Orleans rather than be in Charlotte because you have been fascinated by the fact that I have to look like a bald Britney Spears in T-minus 30 hours.
Let me just say, I have never been more excited in my life for another man to get his hair cut. I'm really looking forward to this, man. I can't wait to see these photos.
I'm gonna wear. Where are you headed this weekend for the playoffs? You coming down here, or you're elsewhere?
No, I'm actually going to be at home. We got everyone else covered, but I'm in Charlotte now. I just landed today, so I'm going to be spending the week with the Panthers, and then next week I'll be headed to Pittsburgh for whatever team wins to face them in the divisional round.
All right. Well, we'll be on our YouTube live stream. I'm sure it'll be on NOLA.com. Lorenzo, there will be more than pictures. There'll be video. I also heard that maybe a TV station or two in town is going to be coming to it. So it's that big. It's that important.
Let me the video. I watched that video when you made that proclamation, and you were so confident. That book it, man. That was.
Exactly. That's part of the point. Was
God.
he was so sure of himself. They're 0-2. It's the same thing. Everything's the same. That was exactly the mentality.
Oh, that's it. But Lorenzo, we did tease how you before the Buffalo Bills game, you had the Saints winning the Super Bowl. At this point, how do you feel about that pick right now?
I'm still feeling all right about it. Definitely not as confident, maybe. But after the Bills game, I was riding high. But I still think they got it in them. I mean, they sort of have the ingredients where they can do it. But I think the field in the NFC, I think is just it's pretty competitive. With that said, though, with the Eagles, I'm not feeling so great about them with Nick Foles as their quarterback. And the Vikings have looked so dominant, and they look like such a good team, but I still can't shake the feeling that they're due for a downfall at some point with Case Keenum at quarterback. And I know Sam Bradford's coming back to practicing, and they're built on that defense, but I don't know. I feel like it's wide open. So I do still feel like New Orleans has as good a shot as anyone to make a run here.
Yeah, Lorenzo, that's interesting you bring up Sam Bradford because he's coming back, right? He's back from injury. They've got Teddy Bridgewater back. So now they've got all three of these quarterbacks. It's really an interesting situation for them. I'm sure they're going to ride Case Keenum into the playoffs, but wonder how long the leash will be with Mike Zimmer on his quarterback if all of a sudden the clock strikes midnight like we all think it is on Case Keenum and he starts struggling in the playoffs. Do you think they go with one of these guys very quickly?
That's the thing. It's so tricky because, if you're a coach and you have two quarterbacks, then you can sort of manage that. But you're right. They have three. It's going to be interesting if Case struggles because who do you turn to then?
Right.
I would think Bradford would be the guy, even though he's just coming back. But it's tricky. Obviously, I think in their ideal scenario, Case keeps playing the way he's playing, which has been good enough. He's had very good games, but he's also had games where you can see some, he's made some mistakes with the ball, and it really depends. But you guys know better than anyone, in the playoffs, you're going to get the best teams, the best defenses. So it's not going to be easy. I still think they'll probably try to take some pressure off, and Latavius Murray's been pretty successful, but I don't. You don't see too many Super Bowl winning teams with quarterbacks the caliber of a Case Keenum. You typically see the teams that get in there are teams that have, the Ben Roethlisbergers, the Drew Brees, those kind of players. And I think that's something that it's going to be interesting to watch. But I guess that they feel when they have that defense playing as well as it's playing, they only need to score a few points. They don't need somebody to light it up and put 40 on the board. But still, I just hesitate when a team has a quarterback like that, putting them in the championship all the way,
Lorenzo Reyes, USA Today, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. You look at the NFC, and we figured that the Saints would win their division as far as, at the season midpoint. You like what you saw. Rams have not fallen off the map. Vikings have not fallen off the map. And how dangerous do you think maybe a team like the Rams are? Look, they kind of tried to do the play some little games as far as sitting some players, and it ended up not paying off for them as far as in the seeding. They would have to take on Minnesota first. What do you make of the Rams going into this playoffs? A lot of inexperience as far as ever playing in the postseason.
Yeah, I like what they've built, but I still do think they're a very dangerous team. Don't get me wrong. If you get them on the wrong day, with Todd Gurley and Jared Goff, what I just love is how Todd Gurley has become such an effective receiver. I don't know how they weren't using him like this in the past, but it's again, they have that really powerful combination where if they get rolling, watch out, But I still feel like they're a touch too young. I think they're maybe a year or two away from really being a legitimate Super Bowl contender. But again, I still think they're solid. Especially that with Aaron Donald anchoring that defensive line, their defense has improved. They have athletic linebackers. I think they do have a lot of nice pieces to be excited about in the future. Are they a Super Bowl contender yet? I'm not buying it quite as much as maybe some other people are, but they're still a nasty team for sure.
Well, speaking of that, they play Atlanta this week in the wild card game, and a lot of Saints fans obviously interested in that game because the only chance the Saints have of hosting the NFC Championship game is if Atlanta kind of wins out. What do you think? How do you think that game matches? How do the Falcons match up with the Rams?
Yeah, I think they match up pretty well, but I just don't. I think Atlanta, we got used to seeing that Kyle Shanahan-led offense, and it was just so much fun, and they were putting points on everyone. But they've had to weather some storms here in the regular season, and they sort of obviously, a lot of it is that the NFC South is so competitive and so powerful this year, but still, I think Atlanta, I don't know that they have enough to compete with the offense that Los Angeles brings, just because, they do have some really athletic linebackers. Deion Jones is great. Grady Jarrett, I think, is going to have a monster game to disrupt the running game that the Rams bring. But I still think that Gurley he's too quick, and if he gets in space laterally outside, it's going to be on those linebackers to sort of be in position to make those stops, because if not, we've seen Gurley go the distance basically whenever, any big play. If he has that green grass in front of him, he could take off. So,
got about 2 minutes.
I think it's a nice matchup. I think it's going to be a closer game than maybe some people are thinking, but I do think the Rams end up winning, just because I think, again, that what Sean McVay's done with that offense is incredible. But again, my questions with the Rams are whether they can, reach the conference championship, and whether they can win a divisional game, because once the opponents start getting tougher, I still think that they're, again, a little bit too young to really pull off a deep run.
Lorenzo, we got about a minute left. Should we even pay attention to the AFC wildcard round and just gear up for an eventual New England-Pittsburgh tilt in 2 weeks?
I mean, you never know. Anything could happen, but I'm sort of with you. I think the Bills, it's a fun story, but I think the Jaguars are too strong, and the Titans and the Chiefs, I don't know. I mean, let me put it like this: the games that I'll be watching for sure are the NFC games. So I do think once the divisional round hits, the AFC will be a little bit better. But I'm with you. I'll be keeping an eye on the NFC for sure.
There you go. Lorenzo Reyes of USA Today. Follow him on Twitter at Lorenzo G. Reyes. Hey, Lorenzo, appreciate the time, my friend. And I will save you some hair. I will ship it to you in New York where you live. I'm sure your wife will be wondering, what the hell did you just order from Amazon? What is this?
Don't worry, Larry. I'll be watching that Facebook Live, brother.
There you go. All right, Lorenzo. Appreciate it as always, buddy. Lorenzo Reyes from USA Today covers the NFL, does a great job. And on the Saints bandwagon, he's still on it.
Yeah, and there's good reason for it. Saints have as good a shot as anybody.
I would totally agree. Hour number 1 is up.
30.
Hour number 2 is on the way. We'll talk Panthers with Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer. We'll talk NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame. The finalists are in. Of course, Jeff is our voter here in New Orleans. We'll touch on that in hour number 2.
10 seconds.
And Will Guillory also in hour number 2. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Shake it like a salt chick. I love that.
To treat type 2 diabetes.
That's my go-to dance.
Memory
Little
loss,
salt, little
and
pepper.
Is now being
A little salt, little pepper.
China have found that the drug
That's what Jeff was
triggers a
doing at
reduction in nerve
midnight
killing
Eastern
protein
while we're at
molecules, which seem to
Marriott
have
bar,
a
all
protective
lonely
effect on
boys.
the
Watching
brain.
watching Britney
Looked at a
Spears
treatment that
perform.
Right.
I didn't even know she still was
Their
a
theory
was a
is that
thing.
Together, these drugs act on
she was-
biological
she was actually
pathways that may
impressive,
also
I thought.
impact dementia.
Britney Spears,
Trying to lose
Kentwood's
a few
finest.
pounds this new year? Well, drinking
All right,
water
another shot
helps.
of
That's
Java
what
for
health
me. Anything
experts
for you?
say. They recommend 8 glasses a day or
I'm gonna go get
64
ice, I'll
ounces
take
of water. They say staying hydrated boosts the metabolism and helps reduce hunger pangs. A simple strategy is to drink 2 glasses of water before meals to fill you up and reduce calorie intake from food. Health Update, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280.
Fox Sports Trending
now.
University of Arizona has fired head football coach Rich Rodriguez after 6 seasons in the wake of sexual harassment allegation and lawsuit expected to be filed against the school. While 78-year-old Bill Snyder will reportedly return as head football coach at Kansas State, Alabama linebacker Anthony Jennings said via Twitter this morning he'll miss the national championship game against Georgia. Says he had to have surgery for the knee injury he suffered in Monday's Sugar Bowl win over Clemson. And the mother of Marshall redshirt freshman defensive tackle Larry Aaron says her son has no feelings in her leg after being struck in the back by a stray bullet during a New Year's Eve party in Maryland. Moving on to baseball, free agent first baseman Eric Hosmer has received 7-year contract offers from both the Royals and the Padres, according to USA Today. And Lakers guard Lonzo Ball and center Brooke Lopez have been cleared to practice. I'm Deb Carson.
Amazon says more new customers
at 4.5 minutes
than any.
And Joe Person, right?
E-commerce company says Prime members streamed, downloaded, and bought more in 2017 than any other year to date. It says the Fire TV Stick and the Echo Dot were among the top grossing sales last year. According to Amazon, they sold and shipped more than 5 billion Prime items. A press release says that December 30th was their best streaming day when thousands tuned in to watch 2 Prime original movies, The Grand Tour 2 and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. The best-selling 2017 Prime ebook was The Handmaid's Tale. Cities with the lowest unemployment rates are seeing some of the fastest-growing paychecks. Lisa Carter has more.
The U.S. Labor Department says job markets where unemployment rates hover around 3% are seeing higher wages in hopes of attracting qualified employees. Experts say employees in places like Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Fort Myers, Florida are experiencing the strongest wage growth. The Labor Department says this is expected in theory, but has been absent in the economy since the recession. Despite nationally declining unemployment rates, wage growth stalled 2 years ago. Unemployment is the lowest it's been in 17 years. Lisa Carter, NBC News Radio.
Your home may be seeing a nice jump in value. Home sale prices rose 7% in November, according to a report from CoreLogic. It's the third straight month that home prices have risen rapidly. It's far higher than the price gains in the first half of 2017. Home prices are rising because of a low supply and high demand. Analysts say neither of those are expected to ease anytime soon. A strong economy is pushing demand for housing. CoreLogic says this will force potential buyers to hit the streets early this year to try to get a jump on the spring market. Consumer and Business News, Ted Asregat, NBC News Radio.
He was trying to see if they would get a review.
Yeah. I think he screwed up, man. Well, I mean, it wasn't going to matter because they're going to spike it.
There's a bag of chips open on my dashboard.
It was him, like,
might also been part of that, and then you could make the argument, well, he's trying to get the defense on them because they're all out of sorts all of a sudden.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, we're getting ready to spike it. I know what I mean, so they wouldn't have to worry about anything.
And I can attribute that to Andrew 400. One thing that Andrew 400
thing that I still can't figure out what happened.
Well, let me tell you,
after watching a replay,
the second month is where I saw
that play where that Humphreys guy broke wide open. Remember that? Yeah. Like I can't tell who they're yelling at.
If you'd like to experience better results, then get Andrew 400. The safe, natural, and inexpensive way to boost your testosterone. Go to andro400.com
and he broke like toward the Saints sideline. I was on the side of the field. He was wide open. There was obviously some kind of breakdown. You can see Lattimore right before the snap jumping up.
I do remember seeing that.
Yelling at somebody, but I can't figure out who he's yelling at. And I mean, clearly they left the guy wide open.
I do remember seeing him live.
It was like stuff that happened early in the year at the Vikings game.
Casual upscale dining in the
or last year, all year.
Serving dinner Monday through Saturday from 5 to 10 p.m.
Hey, Dave, we got
Your
Joe.
Next event with Austin's banquets.
Calling right now. Sweet. It's ringing.
Questions, please call 888-5533. Austin's, a true dining experience.
Yeah, I listened to Eric yesterday.
Now
Showing
open the
good.
core
Well,
7 days a week.
first day
5
was
to 12
yesterday.
p.m.
2018 is not just a new year. It's also an opportunity to grow your business with top talent.
David doing?
But how do you find it?
ZipRecruiter.
Wait, I need to double check the number. I didn't get the right one, I think. Joe Person 704-288-8320.
We alert quality candidates about your job. That means you'll start getting great candidates with the right experience almost as soon as your job is posted. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through this.
8230. Okay.
The right candidates are out there. This is how you find them. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
People from businesses of all sizes trust ZipRecruiter for their hiring needs. We're so confident ZipRecruiter will get you better results than anywhere else. We'll let you try it free. That's right, free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.
Right, coming in.
Free. Okay. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Dunc and Holder, hour number 2.
We got him.
On a Wednesday, January 3rd. You missed any of the show, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube page. And pleased to be joined by our good friend Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer, covers the Panthers up in Charlotte. And Joe, I'm sure you assumed that the Panthers would make the playoffs as far as later in the season as this thing was going. But it seems like that the Panthers are probably not playing their best football. How would you evaluate the way they've been playing the last few weeks?
Well, first let me preface it by saying I am bringing you guys some color and atmosphere today. I am at the Panthers practice. I want your listeners to know that that bass beat they're hearing in the background is not my own personal stereo system. It is being played here inside Bank of America Stadium. So with that, I'll take your question.
Are you getting into it a little bit, Joe? Is it good music?
You know what? They are. I am thankful that the Panthers are practicing inside the stadium today because this is about as cold as it gets up here in Charlotte the last couple days. I read in the Charlotte Observer that we were colder yesterday than it was in Juneau, Alaska. So the Panthers saved us a walk out to the practice field. The mood seems light, upbeat. I think they were very disappointed, obviously, last week in their performance against the Falcons. But they didn't really have much time to wallow in it, and they're going to take another stab at the Saints. You guys know it's not been a real favorable matchup for the Panthers those first two meetings. So they got to figure out something. They got to figure out some sort of way to slow down Breeze, Kamara, and company.
Joe, I think we all agree it is the Saints match up well with Carolina. Why is that? Why do you think they have such success against them?
You know, I think they do a good job kind of taking advantage, using those running backs to create some mismatches. It's really what the Falcons did well against the Panthers last year, and we've seen it again this year with Kamara. I mean, listen, he creates problems for a lot of teams, not just the Panthers. But you've got a couple linebackers in Thomas Davis who doesn't move quite like he used to, still flies around pretty good. But and Shaq Thompson, frankly, he's fast enough and athletic enough. But you guys remember on that key fourth down play in New Orleans a month ago, he was the one who got in position and then failed to bring Kamara down. So I think the speed presents problems also in the passing game too. And Drew, just more so than a lot of other quarterbacks, I think, can really pick apart the zone coverages that the Panthers like to play.
Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Joe, last week, Cam Newton didn't play well. We've seen him in spurts play great and other spurts play poorly. And is it just kind of, at this point in his career, is this kind of just what Cam Newton is? Or, I mean, can you put your finger on how Cam can be so up and down so often?
You know what? No. I mean, I do remember going. I remember being at the 2011 Combine when it sure looked like they were going to draft Cam Newton. I mean, they were kicking the tires on some other guys too, like Gabbert. But I remember questions about Cam's accuracy then, and watching him that day throw against air in Indianapolis, and it just these things are not new. It's looking more and more like 2015. That MVP season was the outlier. That he brings you a different element. I mean, look, we can't question what he'll do in the run game and scrambling and that sort of stuff, making plays with his feet. But look, they wanted to tweak this offense for him. The whole idea of drafting McCaffrey and drafting Curtis Samuel was to give him some underneath targets, improve his completion percentage, and here we are at the end of the season, and he's just about where he was last year with his passer rating, which is to say, oh, by the way, the worst 2 passer ratings of his career have come in seasons 6 and 7. So that's not progress. If anything, it's staying still, and looks to me more like regression. So they're going to have to, in terms of the immediacy, they're going to figure out a way to let him be more involved in the run game, do that kind of thing against the Saints. It's easier said than done, but I will say this, and I really hadn't explored this too deeply just because it was a quick turnaround. I think the Panthers really kind of held him back in the run game against Atlanta last week. I mean, he had some scrambles, but they weren't doing a ton of the zone read stuff, and I think it was like they didn't want to get their quarterback killed before whatever playoff game they were going to go to.
Well, Joe, I wanted to ask you about that. In Week 3, when they played in Charlotte, Cam Newton only ran 3 times for 16 yards. He was still a little bit under wraps then, but I've noticed the last 4 or 5 weeks, Minnesota had 11 carries, Green Bay 14, Tampa Bay 14, and then you mentioned Atlanta, he had 11. But is there a conscious effort by either him or the Panthers coaching staff to have him run the ball more?
I don't think they have many other weapons, Jeff. I mean, Jonathan Stewart, it looks like his tank's empty. He sat out last week with a back injury. I mean, maybe that week off will give him some juice. McCaffrey, I know we've talked about in the past. He's been solid, but he's not been spectacular. He's not breaking off the 60, 70-plus yard big chunk plays that we've seen out of Kamara and Ingram in these matchups. And the receiving core is a mess. I mean, Devin Funchess for about a month made Marty Hurney look like a genius in terms of trading Kelvin Benjamin. But opponents now, and I am sure the Saints will probably do the same thing. See, like I said, Funchess had a month where he was averaging about 5 catches, 85 yards a game, and then defense just said, you know what, we're going to roll coverage to Funchess, and we're going to let one of these other receivers beat us because we don't think you can. And guess what? They haven't. It's kind of a group of misfits. But, unfortunately for the Panthers, a couple of their speed guys got hurt and lost for the year. Demir Bird was just sort of starting to flash, and he's gone. And in their place are guys that do not strike much fear in secondaries or defensive coordinators.
Joe, what about the Greg Olsen element? How much do you think he plays a role in this game? I don't think he played against the Saints either time this year, right?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I was saying to somebody today that he has to be a huge factor, just for the reasons we just talked about. You have to have somebody step up in the passing game. His foot's, he's not 100%. It seems to be rounding closer back to form, but yeah, and they have to try with Stewart to establish some semblance of a running game early, if for no other reason, to try to open up that play-action attack. Because those are the types of plays that Cam is good at. He does seem to do pretty well with the play fakes and getting the ball oftentimes to Olsen in those play-action passes. And that's got to be a big key. They did none of that successfully against the Falcons because Stewart was out, and they didn't have to honor the run. So I think I'm glad you brought up Olsen because I think if they're to have any chance, he's going to have one of those games where catching like 5 or 6 passes from 80, 90 yards.
Hey, Joe, a little off subject, but I'm curious. Dave Gettleman hired as the New York Giants general manager. Did that surprise you?
when they said Ernie Accorsi was leading the search, that was exactly the way it played out here. You guys know Accorsi's background. Gettleman worked for him for, I don't know, something like 15 years in New York. And you know, that I just, anyone you talk to around here and around the league, when Ernie's name got mentioned and you thought Gettleman would get another chance, and good for him. But listen, he deserves it. He got done a little dirty here, in my estimation, just because a couple key players sort of went to the owner and were complaining about contract status and got their feelings hurt a little bit. I mean, Gettleman, and I liked how he addressed that in his press conference too. He said, "Look," he said, "these assessments, you're not trying to win friends. I mean, you're trying to win football games." And he said something about putting your big boy pants on and not getting your feelings hurt. But you know, hold do well up there. I think, you know, obviously the hiring of the coach will be big. I think Steve Wilkes from here is going to get, the coordinator here is going to get an interview. But yeah, it'll be interesting. The Giants come here next year, so I'm sure we'll have plenty more to say about Dave Gettleman.
Joe, one more. We'll let you run the ownership situation. What's the latest there? And I guess it's basically, you know, it's whenever it happens, but what's the latest with the ownership situation?
Yeah, you know, it's not much. They did announce yesterday that they're going to have a firm up in New York kind of handle the financial end of things, and this was all sort of procedural stuff they announced. But you know, there's been a lot of talk about a local ownership group trying to get together, and that may be fine and well. I mean, I think you're gonna have a lot of people interested. I mean, I'm not really pursuing or going to give a whole lot to the Diddy stuff, because if we've seen anything out of Jerry Richardson in the last 25 years, I think we can rest assured he's not going to sell his team to P. Diddy. But that's just my 2 cents. It's a time of uncertainty. Obviously, I mean, you got people in the front, and I don't think it doesn't affect the team. I don't think the players really care. I think that, you know, obviously they read about it, but you got scouts and front office people and Marty Herney, you know, wondering what's going to happen to them when that change does take place. And really just, I think at this point, they focus on the football and see what happens.
Joe Person of the Charlotte Observer. Hey, Joe, appreciate the time as always, and I know I'll be seeing you this weekend. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, guys.
All right.
Appreciate y'all.
Yep, you got it. That's Joe Person. Follow him on Twitter at Joseph Person. And I'm pretty sure that he's right that plenty of people are going to be trying to buy the Carolina Panthers. Now, they expect to get $2.5 billion. I keep seeing out there that might be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I think that's high. I don't think it's going to go for that much. But look, these teams don't come open very often, and that's a very lucrative corporate market. Big-time banking, interests in Charlotte. It's basically the banking center of the East Coast, along with New York City. So that's an attractive spot. They've got, I guess, their stadium could be better as far as revenue producing, but there'll be a lot of interest in that. And I tell you, I was struck by how Joe seemed very pessimistic about the Panthers' chances of winning this game.
Well, I think he's seen him play the Saints a couple times this year. The Saints had little problems dealing with Cam Newton and some of their weapons. They didn't have major problems running through the Carolina offense, and the first time was even before Alvin Kamara got going.
Yeah, I tell you, when the Saints play
heck, Peterson was still on the roster.
When the Saints play a team that's limited in the passing game, like Carolina, they're limited on the perimeter, because the Saints they have one shutdown corner, Marshawn Lattimore. Ken Crawley's hit or miss, I think, and then it gets pretty shaky. And I think if you get against a really good passing attack like a Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, that group, that's, I think, the kryptonite for the Saints defense. When you play a limited quarterback and you're trying to run the ball like Carolina does, they can scheme that up and stop it. But they can't, I think, because of their limitations in the pass rush right now and some of their depth issues on the back end. That's the team that's going to take the Saints out, not a team like Carolina, unless the Saints give them something, make some turnovers, short field, special teams mistakes. I just don't see Carolina scoring enough points to keep up.
I'm wondering about the Greg Olsen factor.
Well, that's a big one.
I think that's a big one, and I think they're going to try to use that to their advantage. Because when Greg Olsen came back a few weeks ago, he had a monster game with Cam Newton. I forget, it might have been 3 weeks ago. He had a big-time game with Cam Newton, but he hasn't played against the Saints this year, and the Saints know how much of a weapon he is.
And Kenny Vaccaro used to match up with him. Now he's not there, so it'll be interesting to see if they entrust that role to Von Bell or if they use Craig Robertson. They've got a decision to make defensively.
Hell, put Lattimore on him.
Lattimore, he is their best. Greg Olsen is their best weapon on the perimeter.
I would totally agree. You think I'm joking? Put Lattimore on
I
him.
think what they do is they put Lattimore on Funchess and say, you take that battle, and then we'll figure out how to deal with Greg Olsen.
I'd put Crawley on Funchess and try to figure out maybe at some point
in
time.
But I mean, Greg Olsen's awful big guy.
I think depending on the situation, but if he's on him like glue,
well, let's throw it up high. I mean, box him out. It'd be like a Jimmy Graham thing. I don't know. I did enjoy rewatching the game against the Bucs and watching Lattimore go at it with Mike Evans. Now, that was a good example. It struck me in that game because when we were at the stadium, you really need to watch the replay. But, for Saints fans out there that were still upset with how that Falcons game was called in Atlanta, it just shows you the difference in the officiating crews. The Saints get away with a lot of holding in the secondary. It's coached. They play a lot of man-to-man. They're not the only team that does it. But they played a crew that was calling that. You have to adjust. The exact same tactics they were using against the Falcons they used against the Bucs. They were holding all over the place, but the crew was letting them get away with it. There was a number of calls that could have gone against King Crawley or Lattimore for having their hands on guys downfield, but they let them play, and that's why there weren't any pass interference calls or holding calls. So you have to adjust within the game. It's not just all the officials' fault. It's not. I mean, it's part of the coaches on the sidelines getting the players to adjust, and that struck me in that game because they didn't call anything on either side. Both sides were getting away with a lot.
I'd agree. Let's take a break right here on the show. We get back. Let's talk Pro Football Hall of Fame, Jeff. The finalists are in. Pretty loaded class that you guys are going to have a tough time to decipher. So we'll get your thoughts on that, and then in about 15 minutes or so, we will talk with our own Will Guillory. Pelicans taking the court tonight at Utah, 8 o'clock tip. Of course, you can listen to that game and every Pelicans game on our sister station, 99.5 FM WRNO. But we'll talk Pro Football Hall of Fame coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder. Napkins. I was about to say, man, you're causing a mess. Your coffee's like oozing out. You're playing with the lid.
$1,000 now. Text the keyword BILLS to 200-200. You'll get a text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's BILLS to 200-200.
New Year's resolutions. Losing weight? Yeah. Being a better person? A better person? Whatever. Winning Pelicans tickets? Yeah. Keep listening for your chance to win Pels tickets on Sports 1280 New Orleans. And start 2018 with all the games on News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
Wizard World Comic-Con, January 5th through 7th at the Ernest N. Morial Convention Center. Meet your favorite stars, including Marvel Comics Stan Lee, David Tennant from Doctor Who, and more. Get your half-off tickets for Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
All right, Dave, you got VIP passes to Comic-Con. You get to go wherever you want.
I got press passes.
So you get to do what you want.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
One light, that's the best of the bunch.
I'll be all up in that.
Yeah. We have the tools to help you troubleshoot the real problem.
I wish
I just wrote a strongly worded email to their I don't know what their promotions or ad agency, because they were supposed to give us a bunch of interviews. They did not. And I'm just like, well, it's kind of hard to generate some buzz for your event when you don't have any celebrities for us to interview to promote said event.
Right. Usually they're pretty good about that, huh?
Cancer and...
Yeah, I think a lot of it had to do with the timing, though, with it being the first week right after the holiday season, Christmas and then New Year's back to back.
Yeah, I can see that.
Apple is now reportedly
all right, 1 minute.
any iPhone battery at its discounted
I wish my
price,
6-year-old
regardless
was
of the
digging it out,
battery's
'cause I would
capacity.
go.
It's the latest concession to Apple consumers.
Oh, yeah, man.
Like, I don't have an excuse to go by
enjoys
myself.
iPhones
Yeah.
as a way to save battery power. Well, all eyes are on this.
I mean, it's kind of like a big shopping mall for nerds. I mean, you know, like they have a bunch of events and, you know, panels and, you know, discussions and other kind of stuff. But it's just cool to go there and just look at all the stuff that's for sale.
Yeah, I got plenty enough nerd in me. I would want to go.
The rideshare company Lyft says it will have autonomous
I
cars
need
giving
like a
rides
reason.
to folks attending the CES. Will provide the rides while Lyft will handle the dispatch. And North Korean hackers are being accused by South Korea of stealing some $25,000 in cryptocurrency. The allegations say the theft of Bitcoin is helping to fund the Kim Jong-un regime. Now, just last month, the U.S. accused North Korea of having orchestrated the WannaCry cyber attack last spring.
The podcast
Tech
thing.
update, Doug Parrott.
Is there a way
ABC
for me to
News
get
Radio.
the download off of it? I mean, like I couldn't find it when I went to the iHeart. I mean, I found it, but I couldn't figure out how to download the actual
This is Dunc and Holder.
We'll talk.
All right. Yeah,
MP3. You know what I mean?
New Orleans.
All right, Jeff, Pro Football Hall of Fame finalists are in. Just before we get through this, as far as dissecting maybe some players, just let our listeners know what the process is and where you guys start and how far in advance has this started and that you guys have kind of whittled it down. And then crunch time comes the week of the Super Bowl. You're always involved neck deep in those discussions in the voting panels that you guys do to select each year's class.
Yeah, this is, I guess, the second cut, and then we get the next step is selecting the class. It starts out with a list of about 275 eligible candidates. We whittle that down to, I think it's like, well, actually, this would be the third cut because we whittle it down to about 60. Then it goes down to 25. That's the semifinalists. We do that in October. And then we get down to the 15 finalists every December. And it's all done by mail ballot. We have a mail ballot that we all select. And so the 25 to 15 is a fairly easy, I think, cut for the most part. But there were some interesting differences this year. Like Tom Flores has been a finalist the last few years. He didn't make the cut this year. And, you know, so there's some give and take on who made it. Obviously, Kevin Mawai and Alan Faneca, two former LSU standouts, great offensive linemen in the NFL. Both those kind of highlight, I think, our local interest, along with Everson Walls, who played at Grambling State. Now, he's a very interesting candidate, Larry. Everson Walls, of course, was a great cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys and led the league in interceptions, I believe, twice. But he literally came out of nowhere. This was his first year where he really gained some momentum for his induction status. He's got a lot of support. I think some people, his old agent, opening eyes to Everson Walls' eligibility, and he made the cut as well. So it'll be interesting to hear the argument for him in the room. So what happens now is we have 15 modern era finalists. There's two senior and contributor finalists, or two seniors, and then one I think contributor in the mix, and we will select from this 15 5, no more than 5 will make the cut into the 2018 class of 2018. I think there's no question, I think we all agree, that Ray Lewis is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's the one, I think, no-brainer pick. I would think that Randy Moss is also going to be very strong and will probably gain induction. I'll be surprised if he doesn't. And after that, I think it's wide open.
Let me rattle off the list of finalists. Tony Baselli, Isaac Bruce, Brian Dawkins, Alan Faneca, Steve Hutchinson, Joe Jacoby, Edgerrin James, Ty Law, Ray Lewis, John Lynch, Kevin Mawai, Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Brian Urlacher, and Everson Walls. The debate's going to come up. T.O., what do you think his shot is this year?
I think he's got a good shot this year. I think probably his best shot easily since he's been on the ballot. The guy that I think maybe the general fan is not familiar with, that I think is going to be really strong, is Steve Hutchinson, former guard with the Seahawks, played with the Vikings and Titans. He's got a pretty sterling resume, really well thought of. this is a year I think that an offensive lineman or maybe even two get in. It's kind of been backlogged. We've got a lot of offensive linemen on the ballot. And these things tend to go in cycles. I mean, we went through a stretch there with a lot of receivers got in. And that's one of the reasons I know everybody's harps on T.O. and that he's not getting in because there's a grudge against him. I think it has less to do with that than it does how many receivers have gone in recently. And us in the room trying to judge, you can't just put somebody in just because they have these huge numbers because the passing game has changed. It's become a dominant passing league. And you have to adjust expectations and the criteria and the standards because if not, you're going to end up with a Hall of Fame full of receivers and no running backs going forward.
What about Brian Urlacher? I would think he'd be a shoo-in.
I don't think he's a shoo-in. I think I put him in the same boat as I would, say, Randy Moss.
Really?
Like I think he's probably going to get in, but I don't think he's a shoo-in, no.
Why is he not a shoo-in?
There's just a lot of people that I've heard talk about his career that do not think he's an automatic Hall of Famer. Now, we'll hear when we get in the room. I don't think the class is as competitive as it's been in the past. Like I think Ray Lewis, no brainer. I think Randy Moss and Urlacher probably have some, reason to be optimistic to get in. And Terrell Owens, I think, is going to be strong. But I don't know. It's not a just no brainer pick other than Ray Lewis. I think it's hard to get in. I mean, it is very hard. There's all these players at this stage were incredible players, probably first ballot, all-decade members for the most part, multi-time pro. Like a guy like Alan Faneca was an 8-time Pro Bowler. Think about that. I mean, it's like a whole decade where he basically dominated at his position. And he measures up, I think, as well as anybody. I think he's got a great shot at getting in because I think there's going to be some offensive linemen get in this group.
Well, Willie Roaf didn't get in right away, and he was on the all-decade team twice.
Right. I know. It's very hard to get in.
Yeah.
I think the offensive line, because there's such a log jam of candidates, we're going to have to get a couple of guys in. It's the same reason that, like, Will Shields got in.
I was about to say, how long did it take Will Shields to get in?
It took him a few years as well.
I remember,
and he certainly deserved to be in. I mean, he was the best guard in the league for a decade.
And you would say the same thing probably about Steve Hutchinson. He was in that boat.
I think Hutchinson, Faneca, if I had to guess, I'd say Ray Lewis, Randy Moss for sure. And then we're talking about probably Urlacher and T.O. as being the next strongest candidates. But I think Faneca and Hutchinson are going to be in the mix. I don't think Kevin Mawai is going to get in. This is his second year as a finalist. But I think he eventually will get in. But right now, I think there's too many other candidates that are ahead of him.
All right, let's take a quick break right here on the show. And when we get back, we will talk Pelicans with our own Will Guillory of NOLA.com. The Times-Picayune, of course, covers the Pelicans. And they will be on the road tonight at the Utah Jazz, 8 o'clock tip. So why don't we get the latest on the Pelicans? And at the end of the show, it all circles back. I want to talk about odds. Prop bet odds as far as the playoffs.
You said the key word.
Are you serious?
Yeah, you just said the key word.
Why are you giving that away right now?
I don't know.
And why did my phone just all of a sudden on its own, Siri came up and recorded, "Are you serious?" Like it was going to call, "Are you serious?" That was the most random thing I've ever seen in my life. Will Guillory coming up next here, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. I'm Duncan Holder. Giving it away.
Your forecast on Sports
They didn't know which one.
New Orleans.
Are we taking it now?
No. When we come back.
Okay, all right.
Center, I'm meteorologist Shelby Latino, and as those clouds break up and give way to more sunshine, temperatures will climb into the low 40s, and that's about it this afternoon. So still a chilly day, and clear skies overnight will allow those temperatures to fall into the 20s on both sides of the lake. Possible hard freeze conditions north of the lake. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shelby Latino. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm Nick Jonas, and I'm here to tell you about Think It Up, a new initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects.
Yes.
Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join us at thinkitup.org.
Message and data rates may apply. Earning your degree from one of the top business schools in the country might sound impossible to fit into your workload. But what if there was a business degree that furthered your career and gave you access to world-renowned faculty, leaders, and mentors, all on your schedule? one that opened doors to some of the most influential CEOs, tech companies, law firms, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. And what if you could earn that degree in as little as 16 months, 100% online? Find out more. Text PROUD to 79645.
Yeah,
that's PROUD to 79645. Start your online MBA, Information Management, or Business Analytics Master's Program from the W.P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State University today. Learn more about the W.P. Carey Business Graduate Programs online. Text PROUD to 79645. That's PROUD.
All right, we got Will.
645.
As a small business owner, you make every dollar count. So what could you do with $10? Go to Vistaprint.com today and you'll get 500 high-quality custom business cards for only $9.99. That's less than 2 cents per card. And at Vistaprint, your satisfaction is absolutely guaranteed. So it's never been easier to turn 500 strangers into connections. Just visit Vistaprint.com and use promo code 2929 at checkout. That's Vistaprint.com. Promo code 2929.
The IT era.
All right, 1 minute.
Underway in Cleveland. The Cavs dominate the Trailblazers 127-110 in Northeast Ohio Tuesday night. As Isaiah Thomas puts up 17 points in 19 minutes off the bench. Thomas on the reception from the Cleveland faithful. His long-awaited return to the court after hip surgery.
Yeah, it was special. I mean, for even my family to be here and my wife and kids to see that.
Thomas will not play tonight as the Cavs take on his former squad, the Celtics, in Boston. The team gear up for the wild card round of the NFL playoffs this weekend. The coaching carousel begins, or does it?
Another score 11, 111 points, 2 points a game, and give up 111 points.
500 all over the place.
And quarterback
their last 10 games are 500.
Retiring from the NFL after 15 seasons.
Unbelievable.
An open letter posted online. Palmer explaining he just knows it's time to walk away. And high-profile wideouts Randy Moss and Terrell Owens highlight 15 modern-era finalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame's class of 2018. That's sports. Jake Orwin, NBC News Radio.
Slow motion for me, slow motion for me, moving slow motion for me.
Whether you ride the wave or like to growl, we're talking your teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
What's up, Will?
You know what that means here on a Wobble Wobble Wednesday. But first, keyword, we're asking for it. You'll win Pelicans tickets January 8th at the Smoothie King Center against the Pistons. You call right now, 504-260-1280 is the number to call and give the keyword, and you will win a pair of tickets. And joining us to discuss the Pelicans, Will Guillory, NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Will, I'm exhausted. All I do is I keep getting in this bandwagon. I keep jumping out. I keep getting in. I keep jumping out. My ankles are going to break. Is there any end in sight for me, or am I just going to be old grumpy Jeff and just be like, I'm not buying it at all, period, the end?
Man, it is tough for Pelicans fans. I don't know what's going on with this team. They're so up and down. It's crazy. I think at this point they're still trying to figure out why they're so up and down. But I think it's obvious at this point, if you're a Pelicans fan, that you got to be really frustrated with where this team is at. They're still in the playoff hunt. They're still pretty comfortable in that 8th spot. But just the way they show that how good they can play at one point, and then the next point they look like one of the worst defenses in the league. They can't finish games. It's crazy. I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I said, I think they're still trying to figure it out at this point.
Yeah, Will, what's the word out of the locker room from Alvin Gentry? I mean, I assume Alvin is as frustrated as anybody, but at some point, doesn't it just come down to the leadership of the team and the players that lead this team, AD and DeMarcus Cousins, to enforce how this team is going to play defense? Because it seems to me like that's what it comes down to. When this team plays D, gets after it, is intense, they can beat anybody, but they just have these lapses in concentration and sometimes, frankly, effort.
Yeah, and talking to DeMarcus Cousins the other day about this, and I think he said that a lot of times with this team, they've so fully embraced this idea that they're one of the best offenses in the league. They're number 2 in assists. They're shooting threes like crazy over the past month. They kind of get into these shootouts with teams, and they kind of say, hey, we can outscore teams sometimes, and they kind of – and he says that, every now and then they'll kind of say, all right, now we need to lock up. Now it's time. And then they'll start playing good defense. Or maybe then they'll start doing the things the right way or communicating the right way. And they need to kind of embrace that all the time. And like you said, I agree. It has to start with DeMarcus. It has to start with AD. I think probably even maybe a little bit more than Gentry. Of course, you got to get it from your head coach. But I think all the time when it comes to basketball teams, it got to come from your star guys. They got to set the tone for everybody else. And if DeMarcus isn't getting back, if AD is not communicating on defense, then it's going to leak. It's going to, trickle down to everybody else. And especially with this team, when you have guys like AD, DeMarcus, Drew, who play so many minutes, and they expect so much from those guys on a nightly basis. If this team's going to start playing better on defense, it has to start with those guys.
Will Guillory covers the Pelicans here from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. The Pelicans it's amazing how 500 this team is. They're 18-18. They're 9-9 at home. 9-9 on the road. They give up 111.2 points a game. They score 111.2 points a game. And the last 10 games, they're 5-5. I mean, my goodness. This is the total line of frustration, because at one point you see them beating teams where they're supposed to beat them. And the last time we talked with you, that's what we were talking about. Then they go and tank it against Dallas, who on the road right now is 5-14, and then
look at the Knicks road.
They can't beat the Knicks, and right now they are 3-12 on the road. Well, what are we going to do about this? And honestly, we're getting to a point where it's middle part of the season, and you got to start making some, or at least thinking about after this season. And it's the magic word: what are they going to do with DeMarcus Cousins?
Yeah, I mean, that's always got to be with this team. I think every decision they make, you have to think about the future with DeMarcus Cousins. And obviously what's connected with that is the future of Anthony Davis with this franchise. But I think it has to start with, I think, like we said before, those top guys, they play so many minutes, it has to start with them. And I think, they've been pretty bad at home lately, so luckily for them, they're heading on the road. They're playing 6 of the next 8 on the road, and I think they played some of their best ball on the road. I think that Houston game was one of their best games of the season. The huge DeMarcus Cousins game in Sacramento was on the road. They had those 2 recent blowouts against Orlando and Miami. They were on the road. So I don't know what it is about this team, but sometimes they just get galvanized. They start playing together more when they're on the road, and I think they're hoping that they can kind of reach down and find that again during this next stretch. But at this point, they've kind of lucked out because the West is just kind of so backwards this year, where Memphis is terrible, the Clippers are terrible, and there's kind of just the top 8 is kind of solidified already at this point. They've got a few games ahead of the other teams behind them. But I think if they can't start, if they keep losing games and they keep playing this inconsistent way, then you got to think that Utah or the Clippers are going to start figuring this thing out, getting a little bit more healthy, and start putting pressure on the Pelicans. And that's the last thing you want, is to be in March, April, kind of fighting your way in the playoffs and looking back and saying, man, what if we didn't lose to Dallas at home? What if we didn't lose to the Knicks at home? Where would we be right now?
What about this game tonight, Will? Is Rudy Gobert back for Utah?
No, he's not yet.
He's not back. Okay, so to me that gives them a huge advantage inside against Utah. Utah is not as formidable defensively without Gobert. He's such a presence inside. But last time they played these guys, my boy, Donovan Mitchell, went off against them.
How is this guy your boy? What is this?
He's a Louisville product.
I don't know about this either.
Yeah, I don't understand it either. But so what do they do? Obviously, they got to watch this kid because he is like one of the top rookies in the league. I assume they're going to put Drew Holiday, or is Tony Allen back, or is he still out?
Tony Allen is still out, so I'm guessing Drew Holiday is going to get the assignment on this rookie. And he's kind of been one of the best stories in the league, kind of came out of nowhere. And early in the season, it's crazy that each of these rookie guards has kind of jumped from. At one time, it was kind of Dennis Smith was the hot thing around the league, and right now it's Donovan Mitchell, where he's just putting up such crazy numbers. And this crazy streak he's going on kind of started when he dropped 41 on the Pelicans on December 1st when they beat New Orleans the first time these two teams matched up. And I think the guy's obviously playing with a ton of confidence. The last time Utah played, he had 29 points, and they beat Cleveland in Utah. So he's obviously feeling great about himself right now, and so much of that offense kind of goes through him at this point. So you got to hope that Drew Holiday can limit him and kind of make things tough on him, because when he's going, it kind of gives everybody on that team confidence, and that's the last thing you want if you're a Pelicans team going against Utah, who's one of the best teams at home, unlike the Pelicans this year.
Will Guillory, NOLA.com. The Times-Picayune covers the Pelicans, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. Is Golden State, this is more of a broad Western Conference question, is Golden State the best team in the NBA, or is someone even in the conversation with them right now?
I would say it's still Golden State. It was a nice look at between them. I think it's promising seeing how good Isaiah Thomas looked last night for Cleveland. I think that's their best bet if they can kind of figure out that Isaiah Thomas, LeBron kind of combination, and they can have enough firepower. But I think that's probably the only real threat at this point, and I think it'll be pretty tough for them to take down Golden State with everything they've got going.
Will Guillory covers the Pelicans for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Will, appreciate the time as always, and we will catch up with you next Wednesday. Appreciate it as always.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to see these Clippers going, and I can't wait to see what kind of haircut are you going to get, like a fleur-de-lis cut into the back of the head, or is there going to be like a NOLA dash somewhere? What are we doing?
Why did Will have to bring up pain and misery?
Maybe like a lightning bolt or something.
A lightning
bolt?
Oh,
yeah. That would be good. That would be good.
Fleur-de-lis is actually a good idea. Fleur-de-lis shaved like flat top.
What if I got the Dunc and Holder logo in the back of my head?
We have to work on that.
Now you're thinking.
See, marketing. Exactly. Jeff, get the stencil, and you're responsible for stenciling that into my hair.
I'll call Banksy, see if I can get a stencil.
Thanks for reminding me, Will. Thank you. See ya.
I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, see ya. That's Will Guillory. Well, he's going to revel in my pain and misery come tomorrow. 4 to 6 Tracy's. I've got to shave my head. The Saints won 10 games, and I'm not a believer. I didn't believe, so I got to pay the price. Thanks, Jeff.
It's going to be
That's
awesome.
on you. That's on you.
It's going to be glorious.
If you would have never said that at that point in time, I never would have said that.
Have you reevaluated the entire evolution of the misguided proclamation you made?
I can't believe that Lorenzo Reyes, from our buddy from USA Today, remembers watching the video and that I was so staunch and that I said book it. I forgot I even said that. I was so confident. Disaster. Anywho. One more segment here.
Live and learn.
No, I won't. I'm sure I'll make some other bold, terrible proclamation, just like I did for the college football playoffs. I got both teams wrong. Y'all probably both got them right.
That's true. I got them both right.
Yeah.
The crystal ball was dead on so far.
Yeah. I wonder when he edited those things. Interesting.
We don't want to talk about that.
One more segment here. Sports 1280 NOLA.com and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Chris Gordy.
The one and only Coach Les Miles jumping in with us this morning.
Hey, Chris, you got to get me.
So when does Gordy start? Next week?
This is too much fun. I enjoy you. You have a great perspective.
His move is next week.
The Chris Gordy Show. Weekday mornings 8 to 10 on Sports 1280. New Orleans.
If you need a payday loan fast, try LendUp.com. Apply in minutes on your phone or computer, and you could have cash in your account fast. LendUp.com, the better payday loan. LendUp.com, subject to availability in your state. LendUp is a licensed credit services organization, not a direct lender, in Ohio and Texas.
Every child is born with talents, hopes, and dreams, but poverty will steal those dreams. You can help a child find hope when you become their sponsor with Compassion International. Give a child a chance to dream again. Find out how at compassion.com/radio.
One of America's most famous socialites is getting married. Paris Hilton announcing that she said yes when her boyfriend of 2 years, Chris Zilka, dropped on one knee. The model presented Hilton with a huge 20-carat pear-shaped diamond during a ski trip in Aspen, Colorado. The couple sharing their excitement and photos of the engagement on their social media pages.
Blue skies smiling at me.
Season 2 of a series of unfortunate events officially has a release date. Netflix announcing via new trailer for the show that the latest installment drops March 30th. The series, based off the 13-book Lemony Snicket series, the same name, and recounts the tale of 3 orphans as they try to evade their uncle, Count Olaf, who is after their inheritance. America Ferrera going to be a new mom. The 33-year-old superstar actress revealing on Instagram on New Year's Eve that she and actor
45 seconds.
Expecting their first child. The parents-to-be met at the University of Southern California and married in 2011.
What's that?
Do you have a winner of the tickets?
Oh, yeah, Brian Perkins.
is still on top of the charts down under in Australia. The British pop star starting 2018 at number 1 on the singles chart with Perfect, holding steady for a 4th week. Meantime, his album Divide is tops on the albums chart for a 22nd non-consecutive week after climbing from number 3 to 1. Sheeran is set to start a stadium tour in Australia this March and April that is selling out across the country. That's entertainment. Jennifer Bolsoni, NBC News Radio.
Dunc and Older Now. Eric Asher next at noon on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
That's right. Eric Asher's following us. Man, great to have him on the lineup, noon to 2. I'm sure he's fired up this week. I could just small inkling that he's fired up this week, even though he's probably freezing his tail off at whatever radio remote he's at because he like lives on the road with his show. So Eric Asher coming up next, super fired up that he's part of the Sports 1280 family. Also want to give a shout out to Brian Perkins, the winner of the Pelicans Pistons tickets, January 8th. He correctly got the keyword playoffs. Dave, did he say it in that tone? Otherwise, the contest has become fraudulent. Did he do it? I guess that means no.
Yeah, the crickets.
Exactly.
On the other end, I think says all we need to know.
Exactly. Say, shut up, Larry. Don't talk to me right now.
Sir Lawrence.
Exactly. So, you know I love my player prop bets. Playoff time, playoff version. Jeff, we'll go through some of these. These are via Bovada. The wild card weekend stats. Who will record the most passing yards wild card weekend? Jeff, who's the favorite? Go. I'm not allowed. I'm turning my computer so you don't cheat.
What was it again?
Most passing yards wild card weekend. Who's going to have him? Quarterback.
I'm going to go Drew Brees.
Yes, he is the favorite at 5-2.
Yeah, he's lit up the Panthers.
Followed by Matt Ryan, Alex Smith, Jared Goff, Blake Bortles, Marcus Mariota, Cam Newton, Tyrod Taylor, 18-1. He's last.
I won't be putting any money on Tyrod Taylor. Against Jacksonville's defense, no.
Most receiving yards wild card weekend. Who you got?
Mike Thomas.
He's number 2.
Julio Jones.
Julio is number 1. So Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, then Alvin Kamara, followed by Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Devin Funchess, Marquise Lee, Greg Olsen at 14-1, Sammy Watkins, Rashard Matthews, and Christian McCaffrey.
I thought the stat that I heard on the Bucs Saints broadcast from I think it was Fox, or maybe it's the CBS crew, that Mike Thomas has caught at least 3 passes in every game of his career. I thought that was a remarkable statistic.
It's not just he caught 1 reception. It's 3.
3. I know. That's a remarkable number that I'm not sure. Has anybody ever done that before? I don't know. I know that he's caught more passes in his first 2 seasons than anybody in NFL history.
Right. That's correct. And I don't know the other stat. I can't help it.
I know, but I feel like for some reason, maybe I'm the one that's wrong about this, but I feel like I'm not paying enough attention to Mike Thomas.
Well, I think part of it is that we see him do these slant routes, and there are a lot of times where I'm sure his yards per reception are not big, like monster numbers. Now, he can make some of these incredible catches on deep balls, contorting his body, which are remarkable and are one of the staples in his game. But I feel I need to look this up. I don't think his yards per catch are that high, so it's almost like he does a lot of dirty work as far as getting some short and making some manageable, like 2nd and 3 and things like that. So I think that might be one of the reasons why we have not paid it. Look, we pay attention to what he's doing, but in a different sense.
Well, I do think, if I remember correctly, I think Marcus Colston early in his career was putting up some similar kind of numbers in the first 2 or 3 seasons among the greatest in the history of the league. So when you play in this offense and you're the main receiver, you're going to put up numbers. So I don't want to discount what he's doing, but it's not like he's playing for the Jaguars and has Blake Bortles thrown to him.
Yeah, he's averaging 12 yards a reception. As far as within the top, let's say, 13 in receiving yards, he would be 12th in yards. Yes, 12th in yards per reception. Only Larry Fitzgerald averages fewer yards per reception than Michael Thomas within that group. And look, his longest reception is only 43 yards. He has 5 touchdowns. So I think the fact that he's not putting monster numbers in the end zone also. But honestly, you look at the top receivers, and it's not the only one in double digits in touchdowns in the top 20 is DeAndre Hopkins, and he's got 13. And he's really their only weapon over in Houston. But, yeah, so Michael Thomas, second on that list. Okay, who will record the most rushing yards wildcard weekend? I'm pretty sure you can guess who the odds-on favorite is there.
Todd Gurley.
Yes. Followed by Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, Mark Ingram, LaShawn McCoy, Devontae Freeman, Derrick Henry, and Cam Newton. So Alvin Kamara's not even in that list. What if he breaks off 2 70-yard gains and then he wins?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a good bet, right? Just give it a
he's
shot.
Not on this board. I mean, it's nonsense.
Because I do think he's got the ability to break long runs, and I think Joe Person mentioned that earlier. Looking at Christian McCaffrey, who we all thought was going to be a tremendous prospect, I think the longest gain he's had all year is 40 yards, and after that, there's just a lot of 15, 17-yard gains, whereas Kamara's had such dynamic plays, I mean, including that kickoff return. And I think we need to ask Sean Payton about that, by the way. Is Kamara now the kickoff returner? I guess he is.
I'm sure he is. He's got it. And, yeah, McCaffrey's longest run this year is 40 yards, but he's only rushed for 435 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3.7 yards a carry. He's 22nd in the NFC. Heck, Adrian Peterson's ranked above Christian McCaffrey.
But going back to Kamara, do you worry at all that he's going to take some, kickoff returns is a collision play. I mean, I just think putting your best running back or one of your best playmakers, let's just leave it at that, back there to return kicks. I know it produced against Tampa, but what if he gets knocked out of a game? They've shuffled so many guys. I didn't realize how many guys they've tried at kickoff return this year, and nothing's produced. And they finally got their best kickoff returner, but he's also one of their best players.
I would not hesitate to do it now. Playoff time, you get your best weapons and you do it now. That's why I feel like in years past when you see the Saints, they were putting more defensive starters on special teams, like on their coverage units, than they were doing in the regular season. I feel like maybe like someone like Roman Harper or Kenny Vaccaro early on in the playoffs in their years, they weren't playing special teams, but when playoff time came, they put them in there. So I feel like at this point, you try to win every game at any means necessary, and I think that's fine. And I think what they were doing with Kamara, put him in there for a game or two to kind of get his feet back under him as far as returning kicks, because before that he wasn't doing that this year. I mean, they nixed that once he got so heavily involved in the offense.
I want to see Taysom Hill get a return.
He might. Does everything else, right?
Made a tackle on kickoff coverage last week.
Yeah, he might. Who knows? He might throw a pass.
I don't know. I'm worried that Kamara's going to just get one of these like blindside hits we see sometimes on kickoff returns and be out for the game, and then you're missing one of your best players for a kickoff return that frankly is kind of it's a roll of the dice there. You're trying to hit the lottery.
From NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. We'll have a locked and loaded show the rest of the week, so come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Eric Ash is coming in next, but we're Dunc and Holder.
All right, guys.
Thank you, brother.
Oh, yeah. No, so wait, back to the Spreaker thing. What can I do about that?
Hold on a second.
Well, we're not going anywhere.
Please hold. Here, Jeremy.
Yes.
How can I get all I need is to be able to get the MP3 or whatever. I just need to be able to get a hold of it.
Apparently it's given to Jeremy. You just want the MP3s for your own.
Yeah. What happened is people are now they've been going to SoundCloud to get it. That's where we end up posting it. Yeah. And so they're asking about because they haven't been on there because I kept looking at Spreaker where we were putting it, and I could download the MP3 from that. I don't know how to get it off iHeart's.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know if you can download it off iHeart directly, but
I don't think you can.
David, you could always, once you've got the finished MP3, you can save that